You all know me, but I am here to tell us all about European Christmas markets tonight. So, couple things going on. First of all, this is being recorded so that you, if you want to watch it again later, if you want to listen to my lovely voice later in the evening, or if you want to share it with someone, you can do that. So I'll send that out. It'll be on my YouTube channel later tonight. Another thing about this is that people have been asking me like, Christmas, July, what's going on? So here's the deal. If you wait until the winter, if you wait until September, October, November to plan your Christmas travels, you might not be able to get in. European Christmas markets are super popular. So that's why I'm talking about Christmas in July, even though I'm wearing the short sleeve shirt and 'tis the season for thinking of summer, but also to start thinking of your holiday plans. So as I go through this, you can feel free to type questions in the chat as we go. I may be able to stop and address them along the way. I may have to hold them until the end, depending on how this goes. So anyway, thank you all for being here. I love seeing all of you, but please feel free to leave your screen off, your camera off if you don't want to. So getting started here. I'm calling this the Smart Traveler's Guide to European
Are we gonna
Christmas
see a bigger
markets
picture?
because I don't know if any of
No,
you are
this is it.
familiar with the idea of European Christmas markets. At the end of this hour, you will be. But if anyone, if you are familiar, you may have seen videos on YouTube, you may have seen articles on the internet. But the thing is, so many of these articles assume that you know the basics about your Christmas market traveling. And so I want to make sure you know the basics in case you want to plan a trip. So that's where I'm going to start the basics, the fundamentals, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. I'm guessing this should run about 35 minutes with time for questions at the end. So, anyway, this is my title. This is me. This is my travel business name. So, just going forward. So, first of all, a little bit about me. Some of you know me really well. Some of you know me not so well, and that's okay. So, I just wanted to share who I am. Picture me over there on the right side, you can see. And I have a travel business called I'm Out of Here Travel. And the whole goal is to help you plan the trip of your dreams, not going by someone else's itinerary, doing what you want on your trip so you get the best return on your travel investment of time and money. That's my whole thing. So tonight we're talking about Christmas markets, European Christmas markets. I love them. I want you to love them too. So you'll see a little bit of this going forward and along. So, Christmas markets. And then the last thing I point out is I actually have dual citizenship for the US and the country of Turkey because I love traveling there as well. Last month, I did talk about Turkey. You did see a little bit of that if you all were part of that. But I visited European Christmas markets many, many times. Actually, I'm going to take a step back there and say my first visit to European markets was in 2011. So that was 14 years ago. Quick math in my head. 14 years ago, I went to my first European Christmas market. And that was a life changing experience for me. Really, at the time, I had just seen an article that someone had posted on their blog, on the travel blog. And I was reading through this. Oh, I didn't even know what it was. And then I was reading through it and I tell my husband, we gotta do this. And he was on board, of course, and we went together at that time. I'll tell you more about the individual markets later, but right now I'm just going into a
Fair
little bit
enough.
of information on again the higher level view of it. So one more thing about this. Christmas markets have become popular. You may or may not be aware that Christmas markets may have become popular not only in Europe where they started, but throughout the whole world. There are lots of cities in the US that have declared, oh, we're going to have a Christmas market now, and they open a Christmas market. However, one of the things I notice a lot in the US Christmas markets is they charge an entry fee. And then you have to pay once you get in when you buy things, if you buy a souvenir, if you buy food and things like that. Whereas most, I'll get into this later, most of the European Christmas markets do not charge entry. So that's good. It makes your traveling a lot more affordable because you can still get the vibe of the Christmas market, that holiday spirit, but you don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. So, moving on, telling you more about what a Christmas market is in case you don't know at all and you've never heard of this wonderful thing. It's just outdoor markets held in the weeks prior to Christmas. Side note to that, there are a couple,
Mhm.
it's rare, but there are a couple that have indoor components, which is to me often kind of nice because you can get in out of the cold and go indoors. Most of them are outdoors. And here I have a picture over here showing a band stage at the main Christmas market in Cologne, Germany. I've been to that market twice now. And so you
Mm.
can see it's a little bit intense in the background here, but these are lights just strung up all over the place and running down there. So lots of lights, lots of holiday vibe, cozy holiday atmosphere, like I see there. So I don't know. I think it just gets you really into the spirit of Christmas fantastically. And so, a couple things you can do there, not only hearing the live entertainment, kind of hard to see, but there's a four-person band there on the stage. But there's live entertainment, and here are the people, here's the crowd listening to the entertainment. So, you can buy things. There are stalls, all these nice little wooden stalls that sell things like I say, ornaments, toys, a variety of things like that. There are also other things that can be purchased, just sometimes souvenirs local to the area, like handmade lamps, handmade carvings, things like that. Hopefully, you get the idea. A lot of people go to the Christmas market for the foods, and the foods are roughly similar among the Christmas markets. There are some commonalities among the Christmas markets, but depending on where your Christmas market is that you're going to, there will be some specifics to that area. Like for instance, a lot of Christmas markets are in Germany. That's where these things got started. And so you'll have a lot of German foods at the Christmas markets. You'll have the bratwurst, you'll have mulled wine, you'll have potato pancakes there. But if you go to Christmas markets in Poland, which I have done that before too, you might see things more like pierogies in addition to all the other traditional foods. So just saying that there are variations on a theme. I talk about
So the
gingerbread. That's one thing you can do. You can also have mulled wine.
potato
Mulled
pancakes.
wine is so super popular. You'll see that all over the place. And it's just red wine, the most common one's red wine. You can also get with white wine. Red wine that's been simmered with spices, and you can have it, and it's a nice warm drink to carry around. If you're not a wine person, I will admit I am not a wine person. You can also get hot coffee, hot cocoa, hot tea. So you can get these hot drinks to carry around with you. So that's a lot of the basics of what it is. Like I said, there are a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of the articles don't give you the high level view. They just say, okay, we're going to go to the Christmas markets. We'll go to Berlin. We'll go to Munich. And then, whoa, hold on there. What actually is a Christmas market? That's what I wanted to get into here. I have a few pictures. So the Christmas market that I had on the previous slide, like I told you, that was the main Christmas market in Cologne. And I just wanted to tell you that Christmas markets have themes sometimes too. Sometimes it's just, your generic Christmas market, but sometimes you'll have some themes. So, for instance, Cologne, the city of Cologne, I showed you Cologne on the previous slide too. But the city of Cologne has a lot of different themed markets. This one, you can maybe tell that this was very crowded. It was the most crowded Christmas market there, and it had kind of a garden gnome type theme. So that was a fun little market there. This one is in Bonn, Germany, and it actually didn't have a specific theme to it, but I put this up there to show you a couple things. So Cologne is a big city in Germany. They have a lot of markets. Bonn is funny having been there now because Bonn was the former capital of West Germany when Germany was divided. It's not far from Cologne. I took a day trip out there and it seemed kind of small. But anyway, it was the former capital. Now it's no longer the capital, but it's still a city that has Christmas markets. And it gave us an option to just take a day trip away from Cologne, see what Christmas markets are like in a smaller area. And a lot of them, as you will see here, have carnival type rides too. So that's one thing that you can definitely do there. The carnival type rides, like the Ferris wheel, like that, cost money because I was saying earlier that with the majority of European Christmas markets, you don't have to pay to get in. But if you want to get food, of course, you're going to pay for the food. If you want to go on the Ferris wheel or the merry-go-round, some of them have that. You have to pay to get in. Another, just a spoiler alert here. I think I have a slide of this later on. Some of the bigger ones have ice skating
Mhm.
rinks, and you can pay to skate and rent skates too, so that's nice, and it has, festive music going on in the background, so that's fun. So Cologne and Bonn, and then the last one I want to show you here, Munich. So all these three on here that I have are German cities, and Munich has several markets too. They have standard traditional markets, but this one that I have in this picture is a little bit different. This one is held on the Oktoberfest grounds. So
Mm,
that is where Oktoberfest is held in September. But during the Christmas season, they transform it into kind of a global themed holiday market. This is one where they do have some indoor areas. And one of the indoor areas, for instance, has a lot of handcrafts from around the world. I remember seeing things like scarves and bags and clothes just with a worldwide theme, and the food is also worldwide as well. So just showing you the variety, even within one country, that you can get from Christmas markets. All right. So what do you expect at a Christmas market? I got into this a little bit already, but Christmas themed energy. It has a fantastic vibe. Like I said, so many people go to these markets for the food, which is absolutely true and it's fantastic food, but even if you don't buy anything to eat or drink, it's just fun to soak up that Christmas atmosphere. At least I think it's fun. It actually my husband will vouch for this, but it actually turned me into a Christmas fan. There were many years that I was kind of bah humbug about Christmas. Then I started going to markets, and it made me like Christmas again. So that's a pretty good testimonial right there. Local entertainment. I was showing you a couple of slides ago that there was a stage with a live band playing. Bigger markets will have stages with live
mm,
band. Some of them have wandering entertainment as well. If it's a bigger market, the smaller markets. So in a big city, you'll probably have several big markets and then several just really tiny markets, just a couple of stalls. Those won't have a stage or entertainment or anything like that, but it's still nice. It's just a little different. This picture here that I have to the right is in Luxembourg City. That was kind of a random stop on our first Christmas market trip because we were going from we were going from France back to Germany and realized, hey, this is about the halfway point. We were on a train, so we could do that. We realized this is about the halfway point. We stopped, did like a 3 hour layover, basically, got out, walked around, and we saw this. We have the stage with a band in the background over here, and then you have these three random people in front that look like the community dancers. They were not professional dancers by any means, but they were having fun, and I love it. So that was the entertainment there. And then the last piece, food and drinks, I've talked about that already. I told you that mulled wine is a popular thing. The red is the most popular. You can also get it in white. They also have alcohol-free mulled wine. So if you like the flavor of the mulled wine, but you don't want the booze with it, that's another thing you can get. There's lots of different varieties of warm drinks that you can get, which is so fantastic because here you are wandering around. It's outside, right? And it's cold. And yes, there's lots of people there. It kind of generates a little bit of warmth. Maybe you're excited and you're warm in that way, but sometimes you just want a hot drink, right? So that's a couple things to expect at a market. So, this is what I wanted to get into, how to visit a market because again, so many of these YouTube channels I was talking about just talk about okay, this market, this market, this market without giving the higher level view. And that's what I want to get into here. One of the things I said earlier was most European markets are free to get in. Of course, you pay for the things that you get there, but that's understandable. There are a couple of more popular ones that have basically a couple dollars entry fee to get in, but those are the bigger popular ones. And it's still not that expensive. With today's exchange rates, that's probably like 2.5 US dollars to 4.5 US dollars, somewhere around there. So if it's one you really want to go to, again, you could just pay that small amount and you don't have to buy anything. There's no pressure to buy anything there either, which is another thing that I really like. The second point, night is really nice to go to the markets because there are lights all over the place and they're twinkly and it's sparkly and things like that. But that's when they're the most busy. So if you have a market that you want to go to that you know is going to be busy, which let's be honest, it's most of them are busy, I would avoid the weekend if you can. I know sometimes it's hard because you only have a short time that you're going to be at the markets and you're probably everyday market, 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 market. And Saturday and Sundays just end up on that list. But just be aware that weekends are more crowded, evenings are more crowded because the Europeans like these too. And so you'll often have Europeans, locals, that will be working during the day and go to the market at night. So if you have the chance, my recommendation is to stop by a market during the day for a little bit just to get the feel of it and check out and you see if you want to go back at night. And then just when you go at night, expect it's going to be a little bit more crowded. Um, and I was getting to this before. Smaller cities will have a few markets. Major European cities have multiple markets, and even smaller towns have a few markets as well. So it doesn't have to be a big city. In fact, there are a couple times that I've gone to one of the bigger cities and gone to some of the small suburbs and towns around by train just to check out some of the other places. Here I have a picture of myself. I wanted to point out over on this side. Belgrade is not a city that you think about for Christmas. This is a picture that I've been posting on my socials a lot recently, just telling you that Christmas markets are not necessarily all Germany and Switzerland. You have some other parts of the continent that also do markets. Belgrade is a little bit less traditional because they celebrate Orthodox Christmas, which is technically in January, but they still got on the bandwagon with this whole theme. You see that, at least in Belgrade, there are a couple other cities that do that too. They have this gigantic Christmas ornament you can walk through for a picture. There I am back in 2018 or 2019. It's one of the two. I can't remember what year that was, but they had the big ornaments. They had big Christmas present structures that you could walk through, get your Instagram picture taken or whatever it is you want to do. One other thing that I did not put on this list that I do want to mention is that Christmas markets are generally open for a full month. So they'll start after our Thanksgiving because Europe doesn't do Thanksgiving like America does, right? But it'll start the first weekend, rather the last weekend of November, right after our Thanksgiving, and then be open until depends on the market, sometimes through January 1st. But as a warning, some of these shut down as of December 24th. That's their last day. So depending on which markets you want to go to, I would definitely look at that to make sure that your market that you want to go to is open at the time you're expecting. There are also some of the smaller, more specialty markets that are just a couple of weekends during the season, and it kind of makes it more special because you have to kind of make a trek, you have to make a special plan to get there at the right time, but just being aware that it's for that long time. I've heard some people say, "Oh, I want to go to the Christmas markets, therefore I'll go the week before Christmas." And I just have to remind people, the full month of December, you can go there and visit the Christmas markets if your schedule allows. So where are these Christmas markets? I kind of gave a couple of markers on this map to give you an idea of some of my favorite places I've gone to Christmas markets. I've been to Christmas markets in more countries than this, but these are just some of the ones I've really liked. So Germany is where the culture originates, like just those small little shacks, and of course, like I said, they have lots of the potato pancakes and the bratwurst and the sausage and things like that. But it's spread, right? So I have this heart on Berlin. I think that Berlin is currently my favorite Christmas market city. Berlin is a wonderful city to begin with, but I think it's about my favorite Christmas market city right there. And that's a place that has trying to remember the statistic that I read. I think Berlin has over 70 Christmas markets. So that is a lot of Christmas markets, right? Couple other places that I've liked. This is Munich. Munich has a variety of Christmas markets. Munich is still German, but a totally different feel from Berlin. Berlin is modern. Munich is more the traditional. They're wearing the lederhosen and things like that. So it just has more of that theme. Over here, I have Cologne. I showed you pictures of that earlier. Cologne has a nice variety of markets as well. These are cities are not labeled, so I'm just going through here. This is Strasbourg, France. Strasbourg is a major city that's on the border with Germany, and it's very interesting because it is in France and it has some French themes, but it also is heavily German. That part of the country went back and forth between the two countries for a while. So just knowing that that's kind of how it's themed. Also, the last one that I have here is Budapest, Hungary, which is one of my favorite cities in the whole world, and it jumped on the bandwagon too. Although just as from a personal story here, a word of warning. We went there in 2018, the first time for Christmas markets. That was our second time visiting. We'd been there a while back during the summer, but our first Christmas market visit was 2018. And it was wonderful. The markets were quiet and quaint, and oh, it was fantastic. Then, over the course of 2019, word got out that this city had fantastic Christmas markets. And in fact, there were several publications that listed Budapest, Hungary as the capital of Christmas for 2019. I actually went back in 2019 because I loved the markets that much in the previous year. It was a little bit more overrun with tourists. So just knowing that things like that can change on a dime, but not to discourage you from going, just setting expectations. So yeah, there are lots of these places that have markets. I list Bucharest, Romania as well. We went to Bucharest is right down on the corner here. We went to a Christmas market there at one point, I think 2019, if I'm remembering correctly, and it was kind of small. But that leads me to another point about the markets. When I planned my first market trip back in 2011, um, I didn't know what to expect from the markets. I didn't know if I'd love them. I didn't know if they'd feel touristy and just kind of, I don't want anything to do with this. So when I planned out the trip, I made sure we went to cities that not only had markets, but other things to see as well. So that if I was disappointed by the market, at least I'd have the city to see. In fact, that did happen on our first trip. Uh, if you've read anything about Christmas markets, the Nuremberg market in Germany is super, super, super popular. Everyone loves it. I was kind of lukewarm, and it felt like a repeat of a lot of the same booths over and over again. My husband and I are always saying it felt like the same 5 booths repeated 20 times. So, honestly, even though it's a popular market, it disappointed us. But I was thrilled to be able to go see the city because it had a lot of good history. So, just a point that even if you are really thinking you want the markets in that city, make sure you have other things to see as well. These are some of my favorite markets. Again, this is not an exclusive list because I have made 4 Christmas market trips in my past, and I'm hoping to do it again not too long. Scratch that. I've made 5 trips. I need to think about that a bit more. I've listed Munich and Berlin a lot on the left side. That's because I love those cities and I love the markets. And like I said, a lot of them have themes. So Munich has a medieval market. It's a smaller one, but all the staff are dressed in medieval clothing. The booths are medieval style. It's just a fun place to be. And the drink mugs are these old like terracotta medieval style. And then there's the Oktoberfest Grand Market. It's called Tollwood. That's just the name of the area. And all of these are easily accessible. Both of these are easily accessible from the middle of town. You can, if you're in the middle of town, you can walk to this one. You can take a train to this one in 5 minutes. So that's easy. I said I love Berlin. I love the city. I love the markets. And just to give you an idea of some of the variety that we have, the St. Lucia market is a little bit more Nordic themed. So they'll have a little bit more of that idea. Then there's the Rotes Rathaus, which means the Red Town Hall. That's one of the main town halls, and it just has a popular market that has a lot of great things. It has a nice Ferris wheel. We've been on that twice. That gives you great views of the city. So these two, the St. Lucia and the Rathaus Market, are in the former East Berlin, whereas the Kaiser Wilhelm Church is in West Berlin. So the Kaiser Wilhelm Church is this old medieval structure that got bombed during World War II, and they've left it up as a memorial. It's a fascinating place to look at in general, but there's a fun market underneath. It's a pretty big market too. Going on to the other side, Cologne, still in Germany. So that is the last market in Germany in my list. They have a harbor market that's on the seaside. It sells a lot of, or the riverfront rather. It sells a lot of fish-based things. So that is always quite tasty. And it has a bit of more a maritime theme. And Budapest has a couple of markets. I think also one of the issues probably with Budapest is that it doesn't have that many markets. It has good ones, but there aren't that many, so everyone crams into those. So Vörösmarty Square, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Hungarian is a little bit different. That's one of the main market squares, and leading off of one side of it is one of their main shopping streets. The shopping street, of course, is there year-round, so that's just another interesting place to look at. Strasbourg, like I said, border of France and Germany, has a little bit of the flavor of both. And it has a super tall Christmas tree with lights all over it. So that's really nice there. Brussels, the Grand Place, had a lot of unusual things this Christmas market. I went in 2011, so it's probably changed a bit since then. But I remember interesting like carnival type rides that just had unusual themes, kind of more historical themes. And that was fun in general. Also in Brussels, one of the things that you can get, because Brussels is in Belgium, you can get Belgian waffles there at the stands, which are really nice. Getting a Belgian waffle and like a hot coffee or like that and walking around. Belgrade. I mentioned that earlier. Belgrade is not necessarily a city that you would think about for winter Christmassy type things. If you're unfamiliar with Belgrade, it is the capital of Serbia, which was part of former Yugoslavia.
Mhm.
Christmas market or not, Belgrade is one of my favorite cities in the world. I highly recommend trying it out. And when I was last there in 2019, uh, they didn't have too much of a market itself, but now they've developed a
That's
nice
6 years
market
ago.
called the Winter Fairy Tale along the
Yeah.
waterfront. It was more just decorations before, just like 10 stalls or something like that. But now they have a more major market. And I these are just places I recommend. Of course, not an exhaustive list by any means. So, just a couple more things about how to visit markets and the best way to do that. As I mentioned before, markets are
That's a cute
outdoors. And
picture.
so I
Huh?
have a picture of me here, right? I'm bundled up. I have gloves on. I have several coats. This is actually in Budapest in 2018. It was snowing, you can see, and it was a little bit chilly. So, just beware. Bring warm clothes. One of the things I do when I go to Christmas markets looks cozy. I mean, you got to stay warm, right? One of the things that I do when I go to Christmas markets, just as a little side note, I buy I buy thermal underwear from Amazon, and you can get some that are warm but very very thin. So you can just pop on these thermal leggings, basically a thermal long sleeve shirt underneath what you're already wearing. As a caveat to that, however, when you go into cafes or restaurants or museums or whatever it is you go into, they'll be heated. So make sure that even though you might be dressed for like 20 or 30 degrees Fahrenheit, if you go into some place, you might want to strip off some of your layers. So just be aware of that. It can also be rainy, like I was saying too. With climate change being climate change, the places that snowed before aren't necessarily the ones that are snowy anymore. So just as a side note to that, that you may get caught in the rain, you may be able to eat all of your meals at the markets, which could be a pro and it could be a con. Because I know that sometimes I'll go to a city, I'll eat all this food at the market, which is fantastic food. You can just grab it and stroll around, whatever it is you want to do. But then I'm not trying any of the local restaurants, which I kind of want to do. So just balance that out if you want. Most markets accept credit card these days. When we were first doing the Christmas markets, like I was saying about 14 years ago, or since it's July, 13 and a half years ago, I should say, a lot of them were very cash based, but now most of them have gone to credit card. So it's always good to have a little bit of cash in case you go to the random food stall that says cash only, just so you have something and don't get disappointed by that. Christmas market mugs make great souvenirs. So here's the thing with Christmas market mugs. Every Christmas market has a souvenir ceramic mug. I have a couple of them right here. So this
Hmm.
one, I have to remember what this is. This is from Cologne. It has the kind of cartoony drawing of the cathedral, the Christmas market underneath. It has some fun decor inside. It's a nice little color. Then I have this other one that I got from Berlin. It's the historic Christmas market, is what it says. And it has kind of some medieval decorations on the side. So, just also as a point to this, when you get a hot drink, it's going to be this size. It's 2 liters. It's not very big. But when you get the hot drink, you'll pay for the drink and you'll pay a deposit for the mug. If you want to keep the mug, then it's yours. If you want to get your deposit back, you go to a stall, give them back the mug, and they'll give you back the deposit. But this is just a fun souvenir to have. Again, I haven't been to markets for a couple of years. It's been 3 years since I've been to a market, but these ended up being like 2 or 3 euros as a souvenir, which as things go, it's pretty darn cheap and I get to bring it back. The thing is, I laugh at myself. The thing is, as an American, I always want to have a big mug when I have my tea or my coffee. So these are more decoration than anything else. Sometimes I put a Turkish coffee into one of those because they're smaller. But anyway, the mugs I think are fantastic because you can carefully pack like clothes around them, bring them back, and then use them at home or give them as Christmas gifts, especially if you've gone to a Christmas market or gone on a Christmas market trip before the actual holidays. You can say to everyone, here are your Christmas presents, and you can give them things like this. Those are two of my collection. I don't want to bring them all here for you. All right. So, if just finishing up the presentation here, that is all about Christmas markets and the basics of how to set up your Christmas market trip with a couple of ideas about what I liked. And again, this is my travel business. No obligation to use my services if you're watching this, but just to let you know that these are options if you do want to work with me. So, I have a couple of options to work with my travel business. So, option one, this is for the person who says, okay, I've got my flights booked. I know where I'm going. I just don't want to take time to research hotels. So I can do basic research on the hotels if you have everything else taken care of. And it's more economic because it usually doesn't take that much time for me to do that. And I will not charge you a cent or a thing for it. You will just get the hotels booked. And in all transparency, I get paid commission from the hotels. So that's how I would get paid for that. Option two, you can have a door to door itinerary, meaning door to door, literally from leaving your house to coming back to your house. So I can pay for your transportation at either end if you want me to do, or plan rather, your transportation at either end if you'd like me to do that. So planning the custom itinerary from your house to the airport for your flight and every single point of that. My first 30 minutes of consultation for each trip is always complimentary. So it's not like you book with me once, you get 30 minutes free, and then every single booking you have to pay for down that. So for each trip, 30 minutes is free. And because I've been given these webinars, and I really appreciate those of you who have attended or watched later on, I have a code here. So use the code Germany to receive an additional 30 minutes of consultation time for free. So I would give you 60 minutes for free. And this code has no expiry. So this is a code that you can just use in the future. You want to get hold of me, you say, hey, Brooke, I saw your webinar on Christmas markets and I have the Germany code and I would give you 60 minutes for free. And of course, there's lots of planning that might go into something like that. If I'm doing everything, of course, there is a lot of planning involved. There is a little bit in between as well. So say you needed your hotels and a couple of tours booked, I can do that too, but it might go beyond that complimentary time, just so you know. And then from one extreme to the other there. So I think that will do it for tonight. Thank you all for coming. I'm looking at the clock. I said this would be 35 minutes. And guess what? It's been 33 minutes. Sometimes I'm good like that. So, anyway, here's my contact information. My name is Brooke Ewell. I'm Out of Your Travels, my company. That's my email address. That is my cell phone number. You can text it, you can call it, whatever works. This number also works overseas. So, when I am out of town, you can also contact me when I'm out of the country. I also have an Instagram under I'm Out of Here Travel. I have a Facebook under I'm Out of Here Travel. I have a Pinterest page where I've been pinning itineraries
Anyway,
that I've
goodbye.
created. So that's also under I'm Out of Here Travel. And what else? I have a LinkedIn under I'm Out Here Travel as well, in case any of you see that. So that'll do it.